This is a 2010 VFR1200F made by Honda that I've bought from Trade Bikes Direct. And you might have seen this in a previous video I did, how to buy a project bike. I did actually end up buying it, as you can see. And you got to admit, this is 16 years old and still looks like a concept bike from the future. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's designed so well. It just, all the lines, the boltless panniers, look, there's nothing to tell you like how to take them off. I'm going to actually have to have a look at the manual. And it's probably the best conditioned bike that I've ever bought. It's not without its problems though. If you did see the video I did on how to buy a project bike, then you'll know that it does turn over and it doesn't actually run. I did get it to run earlier briefly before I hit the record button on this video, and it runs really badly. It kind of like doesn't idle very well. The throttle, look, kind of sticks, and it doesn't sound like it's running on all four. Certainly not very well anyway. So let me show you around it. Before I show you around it, why don't I show you what I mean about the starting issues. So, ignition on. Right, so with the throttle fully closed, yeah, if I open the throttle, it does run, smokes a lot, it's overfueling, and then it dies. So, like I said, not without its problems. Someone has spent a lot of money on this bike. This was their pride and joy. I haven't seen another one with gold wheels and these decals, so these have obviously been refurbished. The forks have been completely rebuilt with Maxton internals. The rear shock, also a Maxton rear shock. This is real carbon... no, it's not. It's good-looking fake carbon fibre on the rear wheel arch. The front mudguard is real carbon fibre, you can see that. Twisting and turning in the different light. It's got like a cool screen headlight protector. The tyres are good. It's got R&G, obviously not bolted on very well, crash bungs. There's an R&G sticker there as well. Not sure what that's for, maybe just decorative. Looks quite nice. Carbon fibre, piece of carbon fibre there. This seat wouldn't have been cheap. It's a Evo something. No, I can't read what that says. but it's really nice, extremely comfortable. Definitely not the standard seat. I think this might be the first bike I've bought with ABS. And yes, it has a single-sided swing arm. Look at that wheel. Looks like a car wheel, doesn't it? Cool. And actually, I didn't initially like the standard exhaust, but now I've got the bike and I'm seeing it properly in the flesh. I think it looks really cool. It's got factory-fitted heated grips. I'm assuming they work at this point. Some cool VFR1200F covers on the clutch and brake master cylinders. Flashy hiss light. Hiss is like, I think, the immobilizer system. Honda immobilizer system. It's got a clock. That is not the right time. And the dials do a cool dance when you turn the ignition on. So other than that, like I said, really, really, really good looking, good conditioned bike. These fairings aren't exactly fitted very well. Obviously, I showed you that. Nothing seems to be attached very well at all to this bike, and there's a reason for that. So this bike has actually been in at least 2 garage workshops to have the faults sorted out, and both of those garages have failed to fix this bike. I saw that as a challenge. Probably not a good idea if the professionals can't fix it, but hey ho, this is Ash Rowland YouTube channel, so we're going to give it a go. So this was bound to happen sooner or later. I've ended up with a bike that's got loads of computers on it. Normally, the bikes on this channel have carburetors and a very basic wiring loom, and sometimes they'll have an ECU, but most of the time they don't really. They just have like an igniter computer thing, whatever. So this has a misfire and it doesn't run very well. Now it could be a simple throttle body alignment setting up. What's it called when you make all of them in the same position? Calibration? Balance. So it could be a simple balance of the throttle bodies, but it could also be one of the many sensors that are on this bike. And short of swapping out each one with another one that I'd have to buy because I don't have like spare parts, I could be spending a lot of money trying to figure out what could be a very cheap problem to fix. So I have bought myself a present. Now this is a diagnostic computator. This particular one is an iCarsoft MT Pro. They don't sponsor the channel. Like, you know, I haven't got this for free or anything like that. I just did a bit of research and this is the one that I bought. With cars, you have OBD2, which is a generic, well, not generic, a globally recognized, what's the word I'm looking for? Standardized. So the cable, the plug socket in all cars since I think 1996, maybe 1998, something like that, they all have the same diagnostic socket. So no matter what garage you go to, no matter what little diagnostic computer you buy, it comes with a cable. This, on the other hand, has come with many cables because motorbikes are not standardized. So each bike manufacturer has its own cable connector, believe it or not. So this is nuts. So this was quite expensive. This was 600 and something pounds. They do a cheaper one, which is 300 and something pounds, but that one only covers, well, in all fairness, that will be more than enough for most people working on like bikes at home in their garage or whatever, because it does the main manufacturers. So Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha, Harley, I think, Triumph, etc., etc. The ones you've heard of. This kit does something like 90 bikes or something like that, and it comes with, well, as you can see, many cables. Inside the lid, it appears to have cable related to manufacturers. And what are we looking for? Honda. Honda. Please tell me it's got Honda cables. I haven't actually used this before, so this is a new for me. I've turned it on and done the software updates and stuff, but I haven't actually plugged it into a bike. There we go. MT08 Honda 4-pin. So now we've got to find the bag that's labeled MT08. It says MT09, MT5, MT21. This could take me a while. This is what I'm saying. Why don't they standardize this, motorbike manufacturers? Why do you not all have the same connector like cars do? I can't even find it. Aha! Literally the one left in the box. If you do want one of these, I will put a link to their website in the description, because I've actually got like an iCarsoft little one that I use for the cars. Brilliant thing. It cost me like 300 quid or something like that, and it covers all cars, which is actually really fantastic. Ah, right. Okay, so you've got to plug that in first. Makes sense. Yeah, it's a good little kit. You've seen me use it on the channel loads, actually, when I was doing the Jag stuff, like clearing fault codes and bits and pieces like that. So yeah, I recommend iCarsoft. Like I said, not sponsored, but what I use, and I will always tell you what I use, so you can go use it too. Right, where am I at? So one would assume the socket for this is under the seat. Yay! Come on, we all knew I knew it was under the seat. Why don't you guys come a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing? because we're on a tripod, Ash. You're the one that controls where we are. Yes, 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 I know. Come on, let's go. So pretty much all modern bikes will have something that looks a little bit like that. And that is a 4-pin, hopefully the same pins as the cable that I've got here. Looks like it. So let's plug that on. No? You're not going to go? Yeah, right. And then pop that into there. Now, normally, if it's anything like a car, and I do not have a lot of experience with this kind of stuff, you need the ignition turned on for diagnosis. So let's turn this on, wait for it to warm up. Warm up? Is that what computers do? Yeah, warm up. Diagnostics, I guess. What is it? Honda. Honda. Loads on here. Honda. VCI cannot be initialized. This tablet will not establish communication with vehicle. Please check if cable is connect. If the cable connects stickly with the data link connector on the vehicle. I think this might have been translated from another language. Okay. Maybe it needs the ignition on. Ignition on. Back. Try again. Honda. Loading. Right. Okay. So here we go. These are the computers available. I'm going to have to turn the light off on the camera. There we go. Now, this is what I'm saying. All modern bikes have this kind of stuff. You've got ABS, you've got VSA, where airbag. No, this bike doesn't have an airbag, so that's obviously an optional extra. I hope it doesn't have an airbag. It'd be weird. BTU, whatever that is. English. So I click on it. Oh, that's probably engine, isn't it? English, you idiot. Read fault code. Have we got any fault codes? Oh, look at that. Stored. Throttle by wire return spring failure. Okay, that actually makes sense because do you remember I was saying that the throttle sticks a little bit? So well done, computer. You've told me something I already discovered. So thank you very much for that. There's no point in clearing the fault memory because it is sticking. What about value live data? What does that do? Loading. Right, I'm going to put that down while that's loading. There's obviously a lot of live value data that it needs to find. So come back in a second when that's ready. Okay, we are loaded and look at all this information that I can see. So all sorts of sensors and stuff like that. Inlet air temperature sensor voltage 3.65, inlet air temperature sensor 9, that's about right. So what I'm going to do is go through these and see if I can find something that looks a little bit wrong, yeah? We can test things like this as well. So throttle position sensor, if I twist the throttle, they change. Quite cool. Now I would have thought they should really be the same. So sensor 1 and sensor 2 should be the same, but they're not, so they're slightly off. That might be, I'd imagine is there 4? No, there's 2. So there's obviously 1 per bank, because this is a V4. There's 1 per bank of 2. And yeah, they're kind of the same. And if they weren't the same, we'd definitely have a balancing problem. There you go, that's going between 2 and 2.5. Let's carry on going. See now, oxygen sensor voltage and oxygen sensor B voltage. It's quite handy that there's 2, because if they were showing different voltages, then I might suspect that there was an issue there, but they're both showing the same. Battery voltage 11.4, 11.5 is probably a little bit low, but I did charge it up the other day just for the purposes of having it ready for this video. I don't know what these are. I don't know what an EOP sensor is, and I don't know what an IAC valve command is. But it's commanding 1.93 G a second. No idea. This is a pretty cool piece of kit though. EOP sensor. Right, I'm going to Google that, find out what that is, because it's minus. I don't know if it's supposed to be minus. Everything else looks kind of normal, I guess, from what I have very little knowledge of knowing. Okay, I might have found something weird here. So TCP sensor, I think that is throttle control position sensor, maybe, a guess. The angles are both 0, but the voltages are different, so 0.49 and 0.21. If I open the throttle ever so slightly, you notice the angles remain the same as one another, but the voltages are different. I don't know if that is a cause for concern or something interesting. Could well be. So now I'm confused. I don't know the difference between TCP and throttle position sensor. So throttle control position and throttle position sensor. No idea. I'm going to have to do some Googling and find out. First port of call though, I'm going to see what this EOP sensor is, because I don't know if it's supposed to be minus figures because everything else is positive figures. Okay, I did some research on the interwebs, and an EOP is an engine oil pressure sensor, which on the computator is showing minus 5 point something kPa, which isn't possible, I don't think, because that would mean that there's a vacuum in the engine where the oil is reading the pressure. I'd expect it to be 0, so something is definitely not right with that sensor. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think it can read a negative amount. 0 is 0. So I guess I got to find that sensor. Shouldn't be too hard. I should be able to look in the service manual and get to it. And for which I'm also going to need the service manual, because unlike every other bike I've ever featured on this channel, there are no screws holding the fairings on, so I actually don't know how they come apart. Most of them are loose, as you can see from me wiggling that there. And I can see one screw there, which would have been hidden by the seat when the seat was on, but the rest of it, I think, just pulls and clicks out. And obviously you don't really want to break anything if you're not pulling or pushing where you need to. So I'm going to look in the book, find out how these come off, get them off so that we can access that sensor and replace it to see if we can resolve at least that problem. We know that might not be the problem that is causing the engine to run like rubbish. It could be a problem though. Well, it is a problem, I think, because it can't be a vacuum in there. It's a pressure vessel at the end of the day. Okay. Oh, do you know what I could do actually? Because it will kind of run, I could just start it, or try and start it, and see if that reading goes up. Because if it goes up, that means it's reading a higher pressure of oil in the engine, which would make sense. Maybe its baseline number just isn't reading right. Let's try that. Let's try that before we start taking anything apart. Although we're going to have to take it apart anyway, because we're going to have to do what I normally do, and that's mechanically check everything. So throttle body balancing, cables. This is obviously something that's started working now, but if you pull that all the way, it just doesn't feel right. That doesn't. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's bring you back to me. All I'm doing here is I've just hooked up, well, Kate's old car battery, which I replaced for her the other day. The battery's actually okay, but it will do for the purposes of this. It was dying. At least now it says 12 volts on the diagnostic. So where were we? View data, live data. Oh, it took a while to load this because it needs to load all the sensors and stuff. So once it's done that, we'll try and start the engine and see if that voltage on that engine oil pressure sensor changes. Okay, here we are, loaded up. Now I'm going to have to try and hold this in front of the camera whilst turning the engine over. Right, you ready? So what have we got? Minus 5.48 kilopascals. Is it kilopascals? Something like that. Well, it went to minus. Doesn't want to fire at all now, but it does seem to be building up by increasing oil pressure. Okay, I'm going to burn the starter motor out if I'm not careful. Okay, so maybe that sensor is working correctly, just the baseline is not quite right, is it? But okay, so that's a red herring. So we're not actually really any the wiser for knowing what's wrong with the bike at this point. What we do know is it now won't start at all. There is fuel in the tank, but yeah, let's go back to old school, taking stuff off, inspecting things visually, and see if we can find anything obvious. Bear in mind, this bike has been to 2 garages and they haven't been able to fix it. Or they didn't want to fix it. We don't know, do we? Okay, let's crack on. Well, not right now, actually. Well, right now in the video, but not right now for me, because it is late in the evening and I need to finish up for the day. So I will come back to this tomorrow, maybe the next day, whatever. See you in 2 seconds. 1, 0. Now, the day after recording that last part of the video, I was told that the lease is expiring on this building. Now, I've mentioned this before in the other videos, but I've had to move everything out of here, along with all the other stuff that was in here that you won't have seen on the camera anyway, because it's work stuff. So the continuity might be a little bit off in this video. I've moved the FZR and I've moved the R6. They went in the back of a van. The GPZ I can ride, the H2 I can ride, the R1 frame I'll have to put in the back of the van along with all the tools and stuff. But before I move the tools, I need to get this bike running, because ideally I'd like to ride this to the new place, but I can't at the minute, obviously. So let's get back to taking it apart. I'm not going to take too much of it apart. I'm going to try and do the minimalistness to it. I think, I've got a suspicion, it's definitely going to be something to do with the throttle bodies, maybe the injectors, spark plugs. So hopefully won't have to take too much apart to get to it all. Famous last words. So let's crack on. Now, I've been around the bike and looked at all the places where I need to undo screws and stuff. And you'll be amazed, there's not really any in there. There's supposed to be one there, there's supposed to be a few on the inside of here, but nothing seems to really be attached. The only screws I can find are there's one on the other side, and that's about it. But I think that screw just attaches the red bit to the black bit. So most of it is in by like poppers, like push-in rubber grommet things. With the seat off, you can see there's supposed to be a bolt in there. Now there is still one on this side, so I need to take that out. It's probably, it's not quite finger tight. Inside here, like I said, rubber grommet pushy thing. I think there's supposed to be one somewhere else as well. There's one holding this wing on there, and then basically this panel will come off. Ta-da! And I'm assuming it's exactly the same on the other side, so I'll pop the other side off. Then we should be able to remove the tank, which is also missing all the bolts that hold it in. Great. I'm going to have to buy a load of new bolts, aren't I? So I've very much realised that this video has quite a reputation to live up to. Well, not really a reputation, but reputation? Whatever. What I'm trying to say is that the last week... What I'm trying to say is, last week's video and the week before was about the Kawasaki H2 SX that I recently acquired. And those videos did very, very well. I don't know if this video is going to do as well, but still, I can try my best. And all I can do is apologize for the light, the sound, and whatever issues I'm going to have with recording videos for the next few weeks, because I am between places. You know, everything's kind of like up in the air at the minute. Not really sure what's going on. All I can do is try and get you guys videos out whilst I'm doing bits and pieces like this. There we go. It's been a while since I used an unconventional method, and that is a can of brake cleaner holding up the tank whilst I disconnect it, because this is going to be a lot easier to work on with that out the way. Oh, that's interesting. I was just about to disconnect all the hoses and pipes and electrical connectors and stuff from the tank, and I just noticed this HT lead is sticking out by about that much. Let me show you. Look. So that could be the cause of the misfire. Oh, that doesn't feel like it wants to click into the spark plug. What's the other one feel like? Right, that one's solid. Oh, there we go. Okay, that is pushed in solid now. Let's see if it runs any better just like that. Wouldn't it be weird if that was the solution to the misfire problem? Health and safety first. Drop that back down. And open the door so I don't gas myself out. That's the big van we've been using to move stuff. Where's the key? Key. Now, we do still have a throttle position issue. Oh, it's actually spinning back now. Granted, those cables were trapped under the tank, I noticed. I doubt that's anything to deal with it, but well, let's see what happens. Right, it's all electronic fuel injection, so it doesn't have a choke or anything. Oh, you think that battery is flat. Let's get the jumper. This is the battery I recently replaced on Kate's car, which didn't resolve the issues of her car not starting. Turns out to be the glow plugs. I did record some stuff, but it's not really a car channel, so I haven't put a video out on it. These jump cables are a little bit big, if I'm being honest. As long as I can get a good contact on there, they should be all right. That's no, definitely not attached to that, is it? A few moments later. There's not a lot of fuel in it, to be honest. Definitely still misfiring. Might need more fuel. Oh. So I've noticed it's making some weird noises. Can you hear that? And I also noticed this thing, right? That looks like it's supposed to have cables in, you know, like an old like clutch cable kind of style. I say old, like a clutch cable style. If I turn it over, it does a thing. But obviously that's not doing anything because it doesn't have any cables attached to it. So, need to do a bit of research and find out what this is and what it's supposed to be doing. So I've disconnected the pipes and electronics from the tank now. I've also taken the battery out because I don't want to upset the rest of the computers because certain things aren't plugged in anymore, i.e. the fuel gauge sender or whatever. I'm going to take this side fairing panel thing off as well so we can actually try and see what's going on with that piece of gizmo wizardry. I haven't done any research yet. I just want to kind of like do a couple of bits and pieces, and then I'll look into it. There might be something obvious like cables hanging around in there that are supposed to be attached to it. You never know with these sort of things. What's that? 13 mil? Ah, no, it won't be 13, will it? It'll be 12 because it's a Japanese bike. And they don't use 13 mil socket things. Also need a spanner for the other side. So once that bolt is out, bearing in mind it is still precariously balanced on a can of carb cleaner. I also, I'll show you in a second, put a bit of fuel hose on the connector that the fuel comes out of, so it didn't end up with fuel all over everywhere for once. It's actually quite a genius idea. So where the fuel hose on the bike connects to, I've connected this tube going up here, so fuel can't drain out of the tank whilst it's sitting on the desk. Well, it can. There's really not a lot in there, but as long as I keep that higher than the level of fuel, then it won't siphon out. Looks like to remove this fairing, there's a screw there, and I'd imagine it's just got pushy popper things in it. So on eBay, I've managed to find someone that's selling a complete fairing, screw, nut, bolt, fixture set. A company called Biker Bling. So I've ordered them. 40 quid for the whole bike, which I didn't think was too bad. No, don't worry, I haven't snapped anything. It's just these clips are quite tough to pull out sometimes. There you go, that type. Right, anything obvious? So I guess the obvious thing is that the cables that are supposed to go in there aren't there. Now, thinking about it, if that's something to do with the rear shock, that has been replaced. It's been upgraded, shall we say, to a Maxton rear shock. So, right, let me actually go and have a look to find out what this is, and then I will let you know in a second. Okay, research done. It is an exhaust valve activator bypass twisty doobry hickey thingy. So basically, that activates a valve in the exhaust that adjusts back pressure depending on the speed of the engine. So I'm guessing those cables are missing because somebody has decided that they don't want an exhaust valve in it. Maybe the valve's been taken out. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the standard exhaust. I'd expect to see something like that if this was replaced with an aftermarket exhaust. I wonder if it had an aftermarket exhaust on it before it was sold to Trade Bikes Direct, which is where this bike came from. That would explain that. Okay, so that might actually have something to do with the engine running like rubbish, but might not be the down and but might not be the be all and end all of the problem. So let's take the airbox off and have a look to see if there's anything obviously mechanically wrong with the throttle bodies, and also to see if the spark plugs are plugged in on the other side of the engine. I don't know if I'll be able to get in there from the top. I might have to take the front bearings off, but let's have a look, find out. To get the airbox off, I'm going to have to undo all the screws that are holding the cover on. Obviously, there is one missing there. I am standing right in the light, so you can't see, obviously. I need to unplug this sensor, which is probably an airflow, air pressure, air temperature sensor. Couldn't tell you 100% off the top of my head what that is. Once the cover's off and the air filter's removed, I can then undo all the other screws that are actually holding the base of it onto the throttle bodies. So let's get the screwdriver out and take it apart. With the screws removed, need to remove this rubber cover, which sadly is broken. There's one on this side too. This side does not appear to be broken. At the end of the day, it is 15-year-old rubber, so if it becomes anything other than soft, it will rip and tear. As you can see, that's just about to break, that one as well. So don't know if you could see that or not, because I can't see what the camera sees. Cover should come off, and this has a sticker on it saying, "Do not discard. This vehicle is equipped with a lifetime air filter." So you're supposed to like oil these or something. It might be a lifetime filter, but they do still require a little bit of maintenance. It would appear this is held in with 2 screws. And there we go, that's out, nice and easy. Now to remove this box, it would seem there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bolts, 2 either side of each of the individual throttle bodies. So let's undo those and hopefully it'll come off. This is a Honda, and from previous experiences, quite like working on Hondas because they are relatively easy to work on. There we go, unscrew the trumpet. There's 4 of those, obviously, because it's a 4-cylinder V4. Interesting. One of these screws loose, as in not just finger tight, just not done up at all. It's almost as if someone took this bike apart to fix it, couldn't fix it, and then also couldn't be bothered to put it back together properly. Hence why it's missing a load of screws and bits and pieces and stuff. Now, will that just come off? Is it that simple? Okay, so there's a big computer thing here that it's just held on the airbox with a couple of clips. There we go. I might unplug that just to move it out of my way. Yes, let's do that. That is almost certainly the ECU for the bike. Very important, very expensive, and hopefully not faulty. Can we see anything obviously wrong? Oh. Normally, correct me if I'm wrong, normally when I twist the throttle, it opens the butterflies. That's not doing that. I thought this was a mechanical. Is this mechanical or is this fly-by-wire, so to speak, which basically means it's electronic actuation of opening and closing the valves? Yeah, judging by the sound of that. Oh. Where's that supposed to be plugged into? That's probably something important, right? They were for the fuel tank. That's just not plugged into anything. Is there anything there for it to plug into? I had a little torch somewhere. What have I done with that? Sorry, didn't mean to bash the camera around then. Is there supposed to be something attached to there that plugs into? Question is, do these valves open when I twist that with the ignition on? Okay. I'm going to go back on what I said earlier about the battery being disconnected whilst having sensors and stuff unplugged, because I'm not going to put the tank back on because I won't be able to see what I'm doing. I'm going to plug the ECU back in, leave the air temperature sensor off. I've got a diagnostic machine now so I can clear the codes if I get any come up, but I really want to know if these valves open with the twisty of the throttle. I also need to try and find out what that's supposed to be plugged into. ECU back in, battery reconnected, ignition on. Right. That is not working properly, is it? So I don't know if I'm just going to check to see if you can see my hand. Yes, you can. So if I open this a little bit, opens a little bit, and then keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, and then all of a sudden they're open fully. I think we might have a problem somewhere. Something to do with that. This is all electronic-y. It didn't come up with any codes when I plugged it in about throttle position sensors or anything like that. I'm going to see if I can find out what this is, and then I'll let you know. Right, now I've had to rig up the Kate's car battery again. I've put the bike battery on charge over there on top of the microwave. I just wanted to show you this. So we've obviously got the turning of the throttle, which open it a little bit and it opens up to there. Keep turning the throttle, keep turning, keep turning, keep turning. Then it opens to that. This is the thing that is adjusting that. And can you hear that? I'm holding the microphone right next to it, so hopefully you can hear it. And it's a horrible high-pitched kind of... Well, it sounds like it's trying to connect to the internet in 1996. Right, I'll try and keep this simple. You twist this, right? That sends, well, a mechanical leverage down to there. This sensor here is the throttle position sensor. So that detects what position I'm holding that in. It then sends a signal to what I can only really describe as an overcomplicated servo motor, which adjusts the position of the butterflies accordingly to the sensor pickup reading from where I'm twisting the throttle. You following me? Hopefully I am kind of explaining this in a really weird way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the diagnostics, plug it in and see if I can get a live reading for that sensor. Now, if I can, and I twist it 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, and that gives me the same reading coming from that sensor, where's it gone, there, then I know that sensor's working correctly, which points the finger to this gizmo thing here, not adjusting the position of the butterflies in accordance to the sensor. If I'm not getting an accurate reading from the sensor, then it would tell me that that needs replacing, and that might solve the problem with this not putting them in the right positions. Okay, I'm kind of waffling about that, but I think you get the gist of it. Let's get the diagnostics back out. I've also noticed that the connector that plugs into this wizardry box thing is actually broken. It's been repaired, albeit, well, I would say not very well, but it looks all right, doesn't it? That blue wire is now connected to a yellow and black wire going into what looks like maybe melted or snapped off, don't know. It would appear that that is connected as it should be, but I've just got to bear in mind that it is kind of bodged. Now I need to plug it back in because I'm trying to read the live values, and obviously I can't because I've forgotten that I unplugged it. That's probably going to upset it, isn't it? Okay, always screw the connector in properly. Oh wow, it's actually come back. Amazing. I did not think that was just going to carry on from where it left off. Okay, so with me standing to the right of the tripod, let's have a look. So what we're looking at here is the values TCP sensor 1, TCP sensor 2, throttle control position sensor or something like that. They're both reading 0 at the minute. If I twist the throttle ever so slightly, 5, they're both the same. Keep going, 5.5. The butterflies in the engine are turning. They've stopped turning and I am still increasing. So the position sensors are saying I'm twisting it more and more and more. They're both reading exactly the same. The throttle body butterflies still haven't moved anymore, and now they're fully open because the throttle is 100% open. So, yeah. Interestingly, the voltages don't marry up with one another, which I find a little bit weird. Although one of them does seem to be exactly half of the other one, so that might be intentional. Okay, so I think we can verify that the position sensors are working okay. I say sensors, it says there's 2 on here, but I've only seen one on the engine. There might be another one somewhere else. There probably is. Right, moving on. Maybe not moving on, because I've just noticed further down you've got throttle position sensor, and I've been looking at TCP sensor, so that's throttle control position sensor, so maybe, don't know. But this is an interesting one. You've got throttle position target angle. So the target angle is 2.34, and the position sensors, which are the angles, currently 2.5, 2.5. If I twist the throttle a little bit, right, the target changes. So target 8. There you go. So the target and the actual position is matching up. Now, I'm at between the position where it opens the throttles a little bit and fully, where there's adjustment in the throttle lever that doesn't actually open the throttles anymore. And that is not changing. So the target, according to the computer, is still 20. Now, if I open it fully, it says the target is 82. So it might actually be something to do with the fact that the engine is not running. And that might actually be the way it's supposed to work. Maybe there's someone on YouTube that's already made a video on this. I'll see what I can find, but I'm kind of stuck at the minute. Just done a fault code scan, and ignore the high inlet air temperature sensor voltage. The sensor is currently unplugged because it was attached to the airbox. Now the throttle position sensor, high voltage stored. Now that is quite interesting because I've obviously got a suspected issue with the throttle position, and the computer says I've got a problem with the throttle position sensor. So maybe the sensor's faulty, maybe the little noisy modem from the 1990s is faulty. Fast forward a little bit, it is the next morning. Now, I went home last night and I read the service manual and I did a bit of research on the various things that I found out last night. So, this throttle position sensor wizardry that's going on there, I basically got the gist of it. However, the ECM, which is the engine control module, does a lot of the work. So you twist the throttle control position sensor then tells the ECM, so the engine control module, what position you want the throttle in. And then based on the mass air pressure sensor, the rear wheel speed sensor, the water temperature sensor, well, the ECT, which is the engine coolant temperature sensor, based on all that information and probably some other sensors as well, it then tells the motor to drive the throttles into the position required. So from what I can make out from my diagnostics, that system is working correctly. So remember that the throttles don't open fully, like they open a little bit and then they stop, and then at full throttle they just open. That's normal operation if the engine isn't running. When the engine's running, you twist it and twist it and twist it, and gradually they open. So I obviously can't test that yet without the engine running, but at the minute, I'm happy that it's working correctly with the engine not running. So that system is all right. The little box on the back with the windy cable thing is for the rear exhaust valve. Now, it's a popular modification to take that cable out so that the valve remains open and it's just noisier. The idea is the valve opens at higher speeds, so I think 4,000 RPM and higher. So when you're like pootling along or you're starting it up in the morning and you're in a little tiny, quiet, nice little village, it's not too loud. It's something else to do with back pressure and engine control, but it doesn't seem to affect it if you disconnect the cable. It's a very popular modification, so not too worried about that at the minute. I might get a new cable just to quieten it down a little bit because this is supposed to be a classy bike, not like a noisy hooligan bike. And the other thing, right, the black plug that I found that wasn't plugged into anything, that used to be plugged into, hear me, the Honda PAIR system, so PAIR, which stands for pulsed air. And the ideal is that it pulsed air from the airbox into the exhaust valves in each cylinder head. And the idea was to burn hydrocarbons that weren't burnt when the engine did the explodey side of things. Now that has been blanked off. You might have noticed the silver colored aluminium blanking plates on this head, and there's probably the same on the other head as well. That system's been completely removed, and it's something to do with, well, mainly to do with emissions. So everything seems to be okay from an electro wizardry point of view. I'm going old school. Spark plugs, injector clean, oil change, compression test, because I think maybe our problem is now mechanical. If I do all that and I've still got massive issues, we might have a problem with the ECM, engine control module. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's get those injectors and spark plugs out. A lot of you are going to be pleased I put this on overnight to protect the ports, and now I'm going to put some blue paper tissue in there because I need to be in there and remove a load of this stuff. So to get the injectors out, I need to remove these fuel rails by undoing these bolts. That will also give me access to the throttle control position sensor if I need to. So the injectors are under these fuel rails. So that looks like it might be quite an easy job to do. So I'm going to just try and do that off camera. If I run into any issues, then I will let you know. I've said this before, it takes so much longer to do something when I'm trying to record it at the same time. Spark plugs, so the two on the front of the engine, sorry, the two on the rear of the engine are easy. Just pull the plugs and they can come out. The two on the front, however, if you can see in there, there's one kind of there, there's one behind all this wiring, so they are obviously pretty awkward to get to, and I'm not sure at this point if I can actually get in there without taking a load apart. I might have to pop the front side fairings off, which are pretty much off anyway, to get to those. So if I run into any issues, I will let you know. I'm just gonna, like I said, crack on with this and then test these injectors on the bench, replace the spark plugs, and then put it back together. These are the blanking plates from the Pulse Air system that I was talking about. The bolts holding the fuel rails in are quite good actually, because they've got washers, but the washers don't fall off. However, this doesn't stop you from dropping the entire bolt down there, which is what I've done with one of them. So I've got to try and fish that out somehow. Where is it? There it is. Oops. I really need to get myself a magnet on a stick. I don't have one. I'm going to get one. These came out really quite easily. I've just unplugged the first one and then realised that only two of them are labelled. So I'm kind of making this little video for my purposes. On the right hand side you've got one label that says 4 and it goes to that piston cylinder there. And on this side you've got one label that says 1 and it goes to that piston there. Cylinder, whatever you want to call it. So now I can unplug these with the knowledge that I've got a video telling me how it was plugged in. To test the operation of said injectors, I've got my little power supply here. I can turn it on, it's adjustable, and I can set it to, well, 12 volts. So you can actually test injectors with a 9-volt battery, so I'm gonna just turn it down a little bit to save damaging the coils in the injectors. So you've got your positive and your negative. Pop them on the pins of the injectors and you should hear them click. So let's do this. I'll plug this in and then turn this on. All plugged in, ready, listen. Yep. And you can actually see fuel coming out the end. So that one is working. Let's test the other three. That one works. That one works. And the fourth one works as well. So I'm going to clean the injectors out by sticking the 12 volts on them, opening up and spraying some carb cleaner through them. And I've pulled it out the fuel rail for the purposes of this job. And I've also just poured a load of fuel all over the workbench. So I'm going to clean that up and then spray these out, and hopefully we'll have a nice mist coming out and not jets. So I don't know if you noticed, initially that came out with 2 jets. Now it's a nice mist. Cool. Right. This is just carb cleaner that I'm using with my hose pipe adapted fitting on it. Second one. Don't look great, do they? This hasn't got a very good seal on it, so I'm getting brake cleaner everywhere. Number 3. And number 4. Okay, spark plugs next. Let's start with the easy ones. I still need to fish that bolt out. I'll get to that later. Just got to remember to do it before I put all the injectors and everything back in. Now before we take the spark plugs out, we'll just charge up the compressor and then blast some compressed air down there. Yeah, need more pressure. That's better. Spark plug number 1, I'm just going to call it number 1 because it's the first one I've taken out. I think it's cylinder 3, judging by the 3 that is on it. Anyway, it looks pretty black. I can't remember what that means. Now I don't have a VFR1200F manual, but I do have another Haynes manual, which in the back has a pretty good spark plug condition thing. So it looks just like that. Dry, black, sooty deposits leading to misfire and weak spark, caused by an over-rich air-fuel mixture, faulty choke operation, or blocked air filter. Now, I doubt it's going to be a blocked air filter or a faulty choke because it's all fuel injection and stuff, and the air filter looks pretty good. Probably an over-rich air-fuel mixture caused by maybe some modifications to do with that pulse air system and the exhaust valve thing. But the result is a spark plug that looks like that, which might have a weak spark. So I'm going to put new ones in anyway. Let's see if this spark plug actually sparks. So here we go, test for spark. Spark plug. Don't seem to be any spark there. Let's try again. Nope. Right, so that is not sparking. Let's try a new spark plug in this lead to see if a new one will spark. Interestingly, these are not the correct spark plugs for this bike. These are supposed to be iridium spark plugs, and this is not an iridium spark plug. These are iridium spark plugs, and I tell you what, these were expensive, but if it's going to get the bike running properly, then expense no spared. Expense no spared? You know what I mean. It's worth it. That's what I'm trying to say. New spark plug testing. Go. That's interesting. So we've still got no spark. Let's try maybe somewhere else. I think this frame's painted. I'll try it there. Where else can we try it? Maybe on there. If I can get the camera to focus. We don't have a spark. Let's try cylinder, well, I'm going to call it 2, but it's actually cylinder, oh, it is cylinder 2. Let's try cylinder 2. Where's a good earth point on this bike? That's very interesting. So I'm not getting a spark from either of those two. Okay, cylinder 4 has no spark either, so I think we've got a global no spark issue going on here. Okay, I've just realised I haven't got the throttle butterfly position motor plugged in, so I'm going to plug that in and try all this again. Alright, okay, with that plugged in, we can now hear it making noises. Right, that's still not working. Just in case it's me being dumb, look, there is a blatant earth patch there, so let's try that. Right, okay, we've got a problem. We have no spark, no spark, no spark, no spark. Right, I've got the diagnostics out again, so it's obviously got upset because I've got loads of stuff unplugged with the battery connected. Looks like I might have to put the injectors back in and plug them all back in before it will generate a spark. So I'm going to do that and then see if we've got a spark. So I don't have a magnet on a stick, but I do have a big magnet and an extension, and I was able to use that to get the bolt out. Right, crack on with the rest of my life now. There we go. injectors back in and plugged in. I remembered to do that. So let's clear the fault codes. In case you were wondering, yes, I did just try and clear the fault codes without that being plugged in, which is the ECU. And this just wouldn't connect. I was just like, what is going on? Anyway, now those codes have gone from current to stored, I can clear them. And hopefully, we will now have a spark again. Wrong button. Where is it? Clear fault memory. Go. Erasing codes. Done. Read fault codes. And the only one we've got is the high inlet temperature sensor voltage, and that is because it's not plugged in because it's part of the airbox. Well, it's attached to the airbox. Okay, let's see if we've got spark now then. Yes, we do, but that is very weak, as suspected by the coked up kind of horribleness that is there. I'll check the other 3 cylinders and then put the new spark plugs in. Well, before I do that, I'll do a compression test just to make sure we're all healthy on all 4 cylinders. Wriggling the spark plugs out of there is going to be a little bit tricky, but not impossible, I don't think. So, right. Cylinder 2, let's see how we get on with that one. Okay, yep, we've got a spark on cylinder 2. So this is cylinder 4, which is the top right hand cylinder. I've put a bolt in here to act as an earthing point. Okay. Okay, there's some sort of spark there. And finally, cylinder 1. Okay, so I did see a little spark there, but obviously this spark plug is not very good. And that earthing point is also probably not very good. But it did spark, which means we do have spark being sent to each one of the cylinders. So that's a good result. I'm going to put the new spark plugs in after I've done a compression test, and we will know that they are working as they should be. Not as bad as I thought to get access in there. Well done, Honda, you made it possible. So this is from cylinder 1, and as you can see, it's the same as cylinder 2 and 3. I'd imagine 4 is the same. Yep, just as bad as the others. Focus! There we go. Just as coked up as the others, suggesting that it's running rich, which means too much fuel. Okie doke, compression test time. I'm not suggesting this is the cause of the problem, but it's not going to help. The spark plug from cylinder 1 is completely different to the spark plugs in the other 3 cylinders. So you've got 3 NGK-R spark plugs. So cylinders 2 and 3, I reckon, are probably the same sort of age. I don't think 1 and 4 were replaced at the same time. Well, certainly not, because you've got one that's completely different to the other one. Why you would replace one and not the other one, I don't know. Each one was just as fiddly to get out as one another. Don't know. We will never know. But anyway, I'm going to put 4 nice, brand new iridium laser spark plugs in. Out of curiosity, let's see if the spark plug from cylinder 1, you know, the weird, different one, actually sparks. Okay, well it does spark, but shouldn't be different, should it? So compression tests need to be done with the throttle wide open, so I'm going to just tuck that out of the way and have to remove my blue paper for this, else I might end up sucking in blue paper. So let's see, I've connected one of the easy access cylinders first, number 3 I believe, because, well, I need to get a baseline so I know for sure that I've actually got that in properly. So we've got 180 psi, which is pretty good actually, only provided that the other 3 cylinders are also near enough 180 psi, because it's not so much the pressure that you can build up, it's making sure that they're all kind of the same-ish. Okie doke. Cylinder, let's call them by their proper name, cylinder 2. Oh, forgot to full throttle open it. Okay. There we go. That is pretty much exactly the same as cylinder 3. Cylinder 1. Again, pretty much identical. And finally, cylinder 4. Amazing. That is such a relief and such a result. All 4 are well within a 10% of each other. So with that, I am going to put the new spark plugs in, put the tank back on, put the battery back on. And the reason I'm going to put the tank back on is because I need fuel to see if it'll actually run. And then I'm going to try and start it up. I'll clear the fault codes on there as well if there's any more. My phone, which I use to record all these videos on, is pretty much full. It says I've got 1 minute left of recording. So this might be a next day clip that follows this because I need to go to Curry's PC World, buy a hard drive, transfer some stuff off my phone so I can actually record the rest of this video. Right, don't panic. I deleted some unnecessary stuff from my phone. So it's not the next day. It's not another day. It's literally however long it took me to put the rest of the spark plugs in and tighten them and reconnect the HT leads since that last recording clip. Whatever, actually, nobody cares. Okay, I've got to put the tank back on, so let's do that. I'm not going to put the airbags back on for now because I just need to test to make sure that this is going to work. If this works, then this will be the end of the video, as in when I say if it works, as in if it's running nicely on all 4 cylinders and I can rev it up a little bit and it sounds good, that's a win, right? So we started a bike, we got a bike running, and then in the next video we'll finish the bike and take it for a ride. That is how I would like it to be every time. However, it's not always the way it works out, as regular viewers of the channel will know. Where's my engine stay? Engine stay? Tank stay. Oh no, I've got an airbox to put it on this time. Just gonna have to precariously put it there. I'll take that bolt out that I put in there earlier to use as an earthing point. What I'm doing now is just reconnecting all the bits that I disconnected from the tank. So we've got the fuel gauge sender and the fuel pump. They both need to be plugged back in. There we go. And the only thing left to, oh wait, let's say the only thing. So you've got these air vacuum. These are drain pipes. So when it rains, it collects in the fuel cap kind of debris and it just kind of drains to underneath the bike. So there's one on each side. Now all I have to do is disconnect the fuel line. Remember that temporary fuel pipe thing that I put in? Oh, I should put this on the center stand because it is tipped my way. And if I can avoid getting fuel all over the floor, I will. Believe me or not. Ba-dong. Wow, my precarious can of carb cleaner did not fail on me then, which is surprising. All right, okay, all I'm doing now is, like I said, putting the fuel line back on. I am going to have to go siphon some petrol from somewhere because there is not a lot in this tank. That's better. That was a nice sounding clicking noise. All right, so fuel tank is connected, drain pipes are connected, all the electro wizardry is plugged back in. Now we can put some fuel in the tank, reconnect the battery, which I charged up, and see if it goes. Probably won't reconnect the battery, actually. I'll probably just try and do it the way I've been doing it for this whole section of the video with Kate's car battery and jump leads. Right, stop waffling, Ashley. Get some fuel in that tank so we can all get on with the rest of our evenings. Got some fuel, siphon it out of the H2. let's just pop it in here. Now the idea of the head torch is so I can see where the fuel level is. I want it kind of just above the pump. I don't want to put too much in because if I have to take it off again, I've got to disconnect it again, which means getting fuel everywhere again. So let's try and minimize that possibility. Yeah. Whoa, a little bit more. Glug, glug, glug. This wasn't a full can, by the way. It was just probably about maybe 2 litres, 1.5, 2 litres, something like that. I'm pretty confident the pump is submerged. So let's reconnect the battery. Now it's still going to moan at me about that air temperature sensor because I haven't put the airbox back on. I'm going to also go in there with my torch and just make sure we don't have fuel leaking everywhere. So what I'm looking at here is to see if the fuel pump is actually pumping. Can't tell. The best way to tell would be to disconnect the fuel line from the fuel rail and see if fuel comes out. But I'm not going to do that because that's just going to make a mess for something that might not be necessary. If it doesn't run and it doesn't start, then I will have to look at something like that next. Undo the door. Because we're expecting it to start, right? You've got to bear in mind, though, all I've done, really, is put a fresh set of plugs in. Oh, I did blast the injectors out as well. And cleared off some fault codes, which I'm still going to have one because the airbox isn't on. Without any further ado, let's see if this will actually come to life. Ready? The ECU light is flashing at me, the engine management light, probably because that sensor's unplugged. Ooh, a little bit better than last time. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Did it sound like it was running on all four though? So that was with me having the throttle open. Definitely sounds better. I think it is now running on 4 cylinders. I wonder if it would run any better with the airbox on and that sensor plugged in though, because at the minute it thinks it's minus 40 degrees outside. So let's pop that back on and then we'll see what happens. Pause. Right, airbox on, temperature sensor reconnected. I've cleared all the fault codes as well, so that's now reading perfectly. Let's give it a go. I'm not really holding out much hope that this is going to run all right. It's not misfiring anymore, but it won't kind of idle. See, I'm having to hold that a little bit open and it's hunting. I doubt it, because what I've read on the forums, it shouldn't be a problem, but it might be something to do with that exhaust valve. Idle obviously is hunting. I'm wondering if it would benefit from a, well, I would normally call it a carb balance, but it's not carburetors, is it? Throttle body balance. So to make sure each one is in the exact perfect position, there might be a setup procedure. I'll have a look in the service manual, but for now, that's all I've really got time for. I'm going to have to put this in the back of that van and drive it to the new tent. Before I give up on this for the evening, I decided to come down here and take the covers off of the exhaust to have a look at this valve, because it seems to run all right above 4,000 RPM, which is when or whereabouts this valve is supposed to open. Now, it's normally open if you remove the cable, but I'm wondering if I wedge that closed, will that make a difference? Find something to put in there. So I've got this socket, and it seems to be the perfect size just to wedge in there and hold that valve closed. Right, let's give it a go. Not expecting this to make the blindest bit of difference, but let's give it a go. Oh, let's open that door again. I keep closing the door because it's obviously cold and raining, because it's the UK. Right. Do you know what? That didn't make any difference other than making it quieter. I think it's the throttle body sinking. Now, whether that's something I can fix mechanically, or if I'm going to have a look at replacing sensors and stuff, but the diagnostics telling me that the sensors are okay. Don't know. Here's the funny thing about making these videos. Sometimes things go according to plan and sometimes things don't. I started packing all the tools away because I'd pretty much given up for the evening. Then I looked at the time and it wasn't as late as I thought it was. So I thought, I'll sit on my chair and I'll have a look, see what I can find on the forums. I found on the forums that somebody had a very similar problem, and after replacing many, many components, narrowed it down to the oxygen sensor, which goes in the exhaust, and it's to do with how much fuel and air goes into the engine. So I thought, I'll have a look. I traced the oxygen sensor, found it. It's in the exhaust, obviously. Then I found something really quite interesting. So under here, right, I will try and show you best I can. The oxygen sensor is there, right? Now, if you follow this cable, that sounds to me like it's not plugged into anything. I can't actually see, but it definitely feels like it's not clipped into anything. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop off this piece of plastic and, this piece of plastic. I'm going to have to undo that screw. Can I see behind there? No, nothing interesting. And see if I can find the end of the oxygen sensor, because, like I said, I'm not convinced it's plugged in. I think this cover's on a rubber grommet thingy. There we go. Can I see in there? I might be wrong, but that is supposed to be plugged into something, is it not? So this comes from the oxygen sensor in the exhaust. It's supposed to plug into something. Where's the thing it's supposed to plug into? So I've just discovered that the exhaust has been changed for a stainless steel one, and the oxygen sensors have been blanked off. The diagnostics are still reading a voltage from 2 oxygen sensors which don't exist, and I also cannot find the wiring that the oxygen sensors are supposed to plug into, which makes
not a lot of sense. It's a common modification to put a control unit in instead of the oxygen sensors and the pair system that I was talking about earlier. But I can't find that either, so I'm a little bit confused at the minute.
I've just had another play with the diagnostics. Have a look at these clips. These graphs show you that the throttle position sensor and the throttle position target marry up. So the throttles, when it's going vroom, 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 the throttles aren't actually doing that. They're staying still. So what's happening is either more air or more fuel is leaking into one or more of the cylinders, causing it to pulse. That's my theory anyway. So I think we've either got a vacuum leak issue or there's a throttle body synchronization issue. So I'm going to have a look at that next. I've run out of time now though, hence why it's daytime. The tail lifts down on the van. I'm going to get this in the back of the van along with all my tools and stuff. And the next time you see me playing with this, it will be at the new place, my tent. Exciting.
You might recognize this unit because this is where I temporarily kept the FZR1000 that I recently killed. I'm going to be in this tent, in this barn on a farm, which is quite cool. However, I need to fit the GPZ, the VFR, the H2, the FZR and the R1 frame, along with all this other stuff that you can't see because it's too dark because I haven't put any lights up yet, and my tools in the tent. It's going to be a tight fit and I might have to sell some stuff, but I'm in my unit, I can make my videos. Happy days, right? Ash said, let there be light, and there was light. So I managed to fit everything in there with the exception of a few odds and sods from various different bikes. I haven't got any room to actually work on the bike, so I need to come up with another solution, but for now it's fine. It's fine. They're dry, they're safe.
Fast forward another week. I am in my tent, in my unit, and everything is here. It's a bit of a mess at the minute. I will work on tidying it up and also the camera angle. But for now, we're here and hopefully I can finish this video. So what I've done, I've taken off everything that was off before, raised the tank up with my can of brake and clutch cleaner, taken off the airbox again and taken off the airbox. I had a look on the forums and I've been reading up and doing some research. Could be a vacuum issue. So not so much a carb balancing issue, but maybe a vacuum issue. So to connect the carb balancing kit, I need to connect to the vacuum lines, one to each throttle body. So I've just had a look in there with the torch. Nothing seems untoward. However, I think I might be onto something. So the MAP sensor, so the mass air pressure sensor,
Manifold absolute pressure,
runs off of vacuum, so those vacuum hoses. Now, if they are brittle, collapsed, or if they have a leak in them, that MAP sensor might not be getting the correct reading. So I'm going to inspect the pipes properly, but to do that, I need to take off the fuel rails again, which I don't really want to do unless absolutely necessary. I have a revolution that I've discovered off camera, sadly. I'll show you the MAP sensor, but if I unplug it, and right, so this is it plugged in. So I give it a little bit of throttle because we know it doesn't run. Too much throttle, right? So we're hunting. My theory is, if there's a vacuum issue, then the MAP sensor might be detecting that. If the MAP sensor is faulty, that might also be an issue as well. Now what I can do is unplug the MAP sensor, right? I'll show you what it looks like. I'll tell you what, I'll bring it over to you. Okay, I'm just going to unplug the electrical connection because if you see here, this is the pressure sensor. So this detects the mass air pressure.
manifold absolute pressure.
And you plug it into the vacuum lines, which are, like I said, one on each cylinder. So if I plug the vacuum line back in and leave the electrical cable disconnected. Bear with me a second. Right, electrical cable not plugged in, vacuum line plugged in. Okay, bad example, but it idles. And to be honest with you, it sounds pretty good. That tapping noise you can hear, I think, might be the exhaust valve thing. I think it just bounces around in there, makes a noise. But that sounds... Okay, I'm going to have to work on some extraction too. That sounds... that sounds pretty good. So, I won't know if I've got a map sensor fault or if it's reading an incorrect reading without changing it. I don't have another one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to order another one. So we've got the bike running and it is running great. So we know we don't have an injector issue. We know we don't have a spark plug issue. We know we've got good compression. We know that fuel is getting in those cylinders as it should be. We do know we either have a vacuum issue or a map sensor issue. So based on all those facts, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. And I will see you next time where hopefully I will be riding this, because between now and then, I will have a new map sensor or a brand new secondhand one, and I'll get the vacuum lines inspected properly. So I might just do that anyway in the next video. Anyway, que sera, sera. Have a lovely evening, and I will see you soon. Maybe this unit's lucky, but then again, luck is based on hard work. The harder you work, the luckier you get, right? Cheers.